You've probably heard someone say, cut out processed foods, as if it's obvious what that means. But if you pause for a second, it's not that clear. Is bread processed? What about frozen vegetables? Or yogurt? The truth is, almost everything we eat is processed in some way. So the real question isn't whether a food is processed, but rather how much it's been processed, what's been added along the way, and is consuming processed food actually bad for you? I'm Mia, and on Biology Briefly, we explore interesting scientific questions, explain biological processes, and challenge what we think we know through curiosity. So what does processed actually mean? At its simplest, a processed food is any food that has been changed from its natural state. That change can be very small. Washing, cutting, freezing, drying, or cooking all count as processing. So when you slice an apple, that's technically processing. When vegetables are frozen to preserve them, that's processing too. Even pasteurized milk has been processed to make it safer to drink. This is why the term can be confusing. Processing itself is not inherently bad. In many cases, it makes food safer, more convenient, and longer lasting. However, it is essential to be aware of the different types of processing. To make sense of it, it helps to think in levels. At the lowest level, you have minimally processed foods. These include things like fresh fruit, frozen vegetables, or plain nuts. They've been altered slightly, but nothing major has been added. Next are foods that are processed for basic cooking or preservation. This includes ingredients like oils, butter, sugar, or flour. They've been extracted or refined from natural sources and are used to prepare meals. Then you get to more heavily processed foods. These might include canned soups, cheeses, or freshly baked bread. They often have added ingredients like salt, sugar, or preservatives, but they still resemble the original food. Finally, there are ultra-processed foods. These are products that go through multiple industrial steps and contain ingredients you wouldn't typically use in a home kitchen. Think packaged snacks, soda, instant noodles, or fast food items. These foods are often designed to be highly convenient and very palatable, sometimes at the cost of nutritional quality. Now, what makes a food ultra-processed? What really separates ultra-processed foods is not just that they're changed, but rather how they're changed. They often include additives like artificial flavors, colors, emulsifiers, and stabilizers. These ingredients are used to improve taste, texture, and shelf life. Many ultra-processed foods are also engineered to hit a specific combination of salt, sugar, and fat that make them easy to overeat. Another clue is the ingredient list. If a product has a long list of unfamiliar or highly technical sounding ingredients, it's likely more heavily processed. So why do people say processed foods are bad for you? This is where the conversation usually shifts. When people criticize processed foods, they're almost always talking about ultra-processed ones. These foods often contain higher amounts of added sugar, sodium, and unhealthy fats, while being lower in fiber, vitamins, and minerals. Over time, diets high in these foods have been associated with increased risks of conditions like obesity, heart disease, and type 2 diabetes. Certain types of processing strip away nutrients and then replace them with ingredients that make the food more appealing and easier to overconsume. So frozen vegetables, canned beans, or whole grain bread are processed, but they can still be part of a balanced diet. The concern is more about heavily engineered foods that are easy to eat in large amounts without being very filling. Processing often breaks down the structure of food. Fiber is reduced, textures are softened, and nutrients become easier to access. Because of this, your body can absorb calories more quickly and with less effort. There's also a behavioral side. Ultra-processed foods are typically softer, faster to eat, and designed to taste very rewarding. That combination can lead people to eat more before their body signals that they're full. Processed foods are not inherently bad for you, so the goal isn't to eliminate processed foods entirely. That would be nearly impossible. Instead, it's about understanding the spectrum and making more informed choices within it. Processed food isn't a single category with a clear boundary. It's a range, from lightly altered foods like a frozen vegetable to highly engineered products like packaged snacks. What matters most is where a food falls on that spectrum and how often it shows up in your diet. Once you see that, the idea of processed food becomes less of a label and more of a way to think about how food is made and how it affects your body. In general, to keep a healthy diet, it is best to step away from ultra-processed foods and try to stay away from unnecessary additives. But of course, it's important to splurge once in a while. Thanks for listening to Biology Briefly. Until next time, keep curious.